In the Skin of a Lion. In the Skin of a Lion is today's capsule summary from Canadian literature. Let's listen about it. Published in the year 1987, written by Philip Michael Ondaatje. Look at Mr. Ondaatje on the screen. Born in the year 1943 in Sri Lanka, he first moved to England and then to Canada. He's widely read, widely traveled novelist. Okay, so he's called a Sri Lankan born Canadian novelist. The genre of In the Skin of a Lion is postmodern novel. Setting is Canada in the early 20th century. Narrator is third person omniscient who knows everything about what's going in the characters' minds and heart. And about this novel, it depicts Patrick, who is the protagonist of this novel. It depicts Patrick's extraordinary journey in Canada from 1910s to 1930s. Okay. Now, this novel is divided into three parts. Each part consists of many chapters and they are woven in a loosely chronological narrative. No strict chronology is used when you will read this novel. Okay. Now, the historical context of In the Skin of a Lion. See, early 1900s was a tumultuous period of Canadian industrial history. Actually, let's start with this. 19th century, British settlers came in Canada. 20th century, immigrants from other parts of the world, especially Europe, started coming to Canada. 1930s, the Great Depression began in Canada, because of which people had no jobs, there was no money. And it was that time when the police or the Red Squad, they started fighting against these immigrants. They were violent against these immigrants. That is why it is written that early 1900s was a disturbing period of Canadian industrial history. Industrialization brought with it problems of immigration, identity, social inequality, capitalism, violence, and dehumanization. Okay? Come on, you'll understand everything. Abhi lagega, oh, what is this? What is Hina saying? No, don't worry. Let's begin reading the novel. You will know everything. First, prologue. The novel begins with a half-page prologue, which sets the scene for the novel. What is shown in this prologue? Patrick is driving with a young girl named Hannah towards Marmora, Ontario. Patrick begins to share his life's extraordinary tale with Hannah. Who is Patrick? Who is Hannah? I will tell you. So prologue is done with. Let's start with the story in the novel. First, Patrick. Who is Patrick? Patrick Lewis. Patrick Lewis. Remember his name? Patrick Lewis is born in the rural town of Depot Creek, located in eastern Ontario, which means he is a Canadian, okay? Patrick is raised up only by his father, named Hazen Lewis. A little bit about Hazen. Hazen is a very reserved man who was a cattle herder. But once a group of foreigners came to his logging town. So his town has many trees, which means these trees can be cut and they can be used for other purposes, deforestation. So once a group of foreigners came to his logging town to cut down trees. And from here, Hazen, that is Patrick's father's profession, changed. From a cattle herder, he became a dynamiter. Do you understand who is a dynamiter? Who actually dynamites, or what is a dynamite? It's an explosive. It's a bomb, right? So a person who breaks off things with a dynamite, who uses explosives, to cut trees or to empty paths, he's a dynamiter. So Patrick's father, Hazen, became a dynamiter. Patrick is 15-year-old at this time. Now, Hazen communicates very little with his son Patrick, although Hazen is a very caring father, okay? So he speaks less, but then his actions, they speak louder than words, right? Now, as the father is mostly working, Patrick is alone in the house and he lives an isolated life. But he enjoys solitary activities. Which ones? He observes moths, insects, people. He reads geography books. Here, the theme of imagination, education, and solitude. All three is discussed, okay? Patrick also learns the art of dynamiting from his father. So, will he also become a dynamiter like his father? Yes, he will. He gets a job. That is, Patrick gets a job of what? Clearing log jams in the rivers by dynamiting the struck logs. So, if the river is jammed because of these logs of wood, who will break this wood or this log? It will be Patrick. So, Patrick actually dives in the freezing river. You know how cold Canada is, right? So Patrick dives into the freezing river to set dynamite onto the jammed logs, right? One night, while Patrick steps out of his modest house, he observes a group of foreigners skating on the frozen river. Their source of light in this dark is the burnt leaves of cattail. Cattail is a plant. This sight excites Patrick so much. He imagines about a more advanced and a prosperous lifestyle beyond his town. Here, the theme of progression is concerned, right? How people from village, they leave their villages and move towards city. What are the problems when this happens, right? So here, this progression, this is what is discussed. Now, something sad. Of course, the novel has to move along, so a lot of twists and turns have to come. Patrick's father, Hazen, dies. He dies in a mining accident, after which Patrick finds no reason to stay alone in the rural countryside. So, because he wants to progress, he moves from his small village to the big city, okay, of Toronto, right? Now, after this, the name of the chapter changes. The name is The Bridge. This is an important chapter. That is why we are discussing it here. And let me tell you, Patrick is not in this chapter, okay? This chapter includes absolutely different characters in the novel. Let's listen about them. In Toronto, Nicholas Timelkoff is a worker who is helping to build a bridge. The name of this bridge is Bloor Street Viaduct. So a beautiful bridge, a massive, a giant bridge is under construction. And out of all the migrants who are working as, construction helpers or laborers here, one of the labor is Nicholas Timelkoff. Nicholas is an immigrant in Canada from Macedonia, that is, from Europe. He is the most fearless worker. Okay. Nicholas literally hangs mid-air. He literally does acrobatics to help in the construction. He's hanging in the middle air of the bridge and he's building it. He's taking the material and building it. Right? Now, here, an authority is discussed, a rich person. Who is he? Commissioner Roland Harris. Commissioner Roland Harris is the in charge of this construction, of the bridge construction. And this Commissioner Harris exploits the poor workers for his personal gain. One night, something unfortunate happens on this bridge under construction. What happens? Listen, there's a strong wind. A group of nuns is walking on the bridge. All of a sudden, a nun, she, goes towards the edge and she falls off the bridge. Everyone believes that this nun is dead, but no, the reality is she is rescued by this fearless, brave worker called Nicholas, right? Later in the novel, we will find that Nicholas turns into a baker and he also tries hard to integrate into Canadian society. And one thing I must tell you, I've not written it here, listen to this. After Nicholas rescues this nun, they go to a restaurant, okay, which belongs to a person from Macedonia only. And it is in this restaurant that Nicholas and the nun have some intimate conversation and they have some intimate conversation, intimate moments, I can say. After this, the nun, she leaves with a mark, she cuts a piece of the cloth, keeps it with Nicholas, and she runs away. This depicts that she will leave her nunnery life. Because she has committed this sin of intimacy with a man, she is going to leave her nun life and she will become an ordinary person. Understand this. This will connect somewhere in the story ahead. So remember the story of Nicholas and the nun. We're done with the chapter, The Bridge. Let's come back to Patrick, who has left his village to come to Toronto. What is his age right now? 21 years. Let's read. At 21, Patrick reaches Toronto. He gets his first job as an amateur detective. Yes, he becomes a searcher. His mission is to find a greedy tycoon named Ambrose Small. So again, another important, as in economically important person named Ambrose Small is brought in the novel. Ambrose has eloped or he's missing, we don't know. But the mission of Patrick in Toronto is to search Ambrose. Now, during this task, Patrick begins a romantic affair with Ambrose's mistress called Clara Dickens. Okay, so Clara was the mistress of Ambrose, but now because Ambrose is missing, Clara is open to relationships and she begins a passionate relationship with Patrick. Who is Clara? Let's listen about her. Clara is a radio actress, and like Ambrose, she also keeps a consumerist view about love and life. What is consumerist view? What is consumerism? Where you believe that people and relationships can be replaced easily. You know, you come, if not, you come, welcome, go bye-bye. That is consumerism, right? You're not stuck at one person. You're not stuck at one relationship. You're not stuck at one employee, I can say. One employee comes, okay, you can go. I can have 10 more. That is that view, which is a wrong view, right? But this is the view that Clara and Ambrose, they keep. So Clara does not mind starting this, fling kind of relationship with Patrick, but Patrick takes it quite seriously. Now, after Ambrose disappears and Clara becomes Patrick's lover, she introduces Patrick to her friend called Alice Gull. Alice Gull is very important. Alice is also an actress like Clara. Now, after a passionate affair, Clara does not think twice to leave Patrick for Ambrose. Basically, Clara knows where Ambrose is. Remember, Ambrose is missing and Patrick has to find Ambrose. Clara knows where Ambrose is. So Clara leaves Patrick one day, goes to Ambrose, and Patrick is lonely, devastated. And can you imagine, what does Clara leave behind? She leaves behind her pet iguana with Patrick. Patrick is lonely again. In Toronto, he takes up the job of a laborer. He starts living among the Macedonian immigrants. He speaks to nobody. But let me tell you, these immigrants who cannot understand his language, they welcome him warmly. And what is the icebreaker between these immigrants and Patrick? It is this iguana. You should read the novel to find out. Now, living among these immigrants, Patrick looks at their living conditions. No sanitation, no drainage, no proper food, no money. Patrick feels overwhelmed about the helplessness of these immigrants. Despite of having such a terrible life, can they turn back and go back to their countries? No, they're surviving. Patrick is overwhelmed. He's sad. Here the theme is problems of immigration. Now, after 3 years, that is, after 3 years of Clara leaving Patrick, someone enters. Who? Alice. Remember Alice, Clara's friend? The empathetic and generous Alice shows up at Patrick's door. She helps him out of his depression. And with Alice's encouragement, Patrick adjusts well in his job. What is his job? Of a dynamiter, to build a tunnel under Lake Ontario. See, this novel actually talks about the construction of Ontario with the help of immigrants who were never given that honor of building this beautiful city. Okay, they helped build Toronto, but they were not, revered. They were not even thought of giving a reference that these immigrants helped build Canada. Okay, so basically, Michael Ondaatje is telling us, or he is giving importance to these immigrant workers. Okay, so now a tunnel is being built under Lake Ontario, and here the dynamiter is Patrick. What does he do? He dynamites large sections of walls, a skill he learned from his father, right? Meanwhile, Commissioner Harris, do you remember Commissioner Harris? He was the one who was building the bridge where the nun fell off. Yes? This Commissioner Harris is also the in charge of this tunnel. He focuses only on the beauty of the tunnel. Commissioner Harris shows least interest for the dangers or unhealthy conditions of his workers. Here, the theme of the working class versus the rich, or the exploitation of the working class at the hands of the rich is discussed. Okay. Now, soon after, Patrick and Alice enter into a romantic relationship, and this makes Patrick joyous once again. Here, an important character, a little girl, will enter. Her name is Hannah. Alice has a daughter, Hannah, from Cato, her deceased lover. Who was Cato? Cato was a political activist who would organize unions and defend the rights of vulnerable members of the working class. Alas, Cato was killed, murdered by the Finnish loggers. And through this story, Patrick realizes that the loggers who came to his town when he was young, remember the loggers who came, they were cutting wood and they were the ones who made his father a dynamiter. These loggers were Finnish immigrants, that is, they were from Finland. Patrick feels ignorant on knowing nothing about Finn's history. Nonetheless, Patrick knows the history of Alice, Hannah from Cato. Patrick loves Hannah just like he would love his own daughter, and he will adopt Hannah as his own daughter in the novel. Here, the theme of love and family. Love and family. Who does not want it? We all want love and family, right? Now, during this time, Hannah introduces Patrick to her favorite baker in town. Papada, baker. Who turned into a baker? Remember? Nicholas, the fearless bridge constructor. So during this time, Hannah introduces Patrick to her favorite baker, Nicholas, the daredevil bridge worker from chapter 2. And Patrick discovers that Alice is the nun whom the world thinks to be dead. Alice is the nun. Can you imagine? Yes, she is the nun who was saved by Nicholas. She left, her nunnery. She became a common person. She turned into an actress, and she's living with this name, Alice. So many connections coming here. So Patrick discovers that Alice is the nun whom the world thinks to be dead, but who was saved by Nicholas that night on the bridge. Patrick is okay with it, okay? And actually, Alice and Patrick are in love with each other. They have a child, Hannah, also. Patrick understands that Alice has strong political opinions. She feels societal injustice of the poor or the working class by the rich. So she wants to bring about a working class revolution. Yes, Patrick also begins to believe in Alice's ideals. Just like Cato, even Patrick will want to start, union and demanding the rights for the working class. But after 2 years of blissful life with Alice, again something devastating happens. What happens? Patrick is devastated because Alice gets killed by a suitcase dynamite bomb, which she picks up accidentally during a labor demonstration. She gets killed by the dynamite which is the work and the profession of Patrick. Can you imagine? After this, Patrick is torn in pieces to avenge Alice's death. He tries to fight all the rich people. What does he do first? He bombs the 5-star Muskoka Hotel in Toronto. He gets caught and is put behind bars for 5 years. But Patrick cannot be stopped. With the help of a co-prisoner, Caravaggio, an Italian immigrant, and his wife Gianetta, Patrick is able to escape from the prison. And through a series of misadventures, he gets hurt because he literally has to pass underwater. But because of this, he manages to reach the office of Commander Harris. He wants to meet Commander Harris. He wants to talk to him about what Commander is doing blindly, against these poor working class immigrants. He cannot be so blindfold about the disastrous conditions these immigrants are living in. But his plan of killing the commander with the dynamite fails, who, instead of prosecuting him, sends him to the hospital. Can you imagine? Commander does not prosecute him, as in does not send Patrick back to jail. He just sends him to a hospital to get medical assessment. Why? Because Commander Harris understands that Patrick is not there to kill him. Mostly, he's there because he wants to be heard. Okay? And this takes us to the end of the novel. Weeks later, Patrick is home with Hannah, his adopted daughter, right? The original daughter of Alice and Cato. He is recovering from his injuries when he gets a call from Clara Dickens. Oh, Clara! She left Patrick and went to Ambrose Mall. Clara tells Patrick that Ambrose Small is dead and that she wants Patrick's help. So Patrick agrees to meet her, driving 4 hours to the town of Marmora, Ontario. Does this ring a bell? Yes, it should, because we started the novel's prologue with this. A man and a girl are driving towards Marmora. Yes. And on the way, Patrick begins to tell the tale of his life to Hannah. Flashback, memories. This is what it is. The novel is all about. Now, I have to tell you, this is important from competitive exam's sake, significance of the name of the novel. The novel's title is taken from a line in the Epic of Gilgamesh. This is an epic poem, which, after following the death of Enkidu, Enkidu is a mysterious, you can say a mysterious man or a god. Like after his death, a mysterious creature, Gilgamesh says, I will let my hair grow long for your sake. I will wander through the wilderness in the skin of a lion. What does this echo? This echoes the theme of converging voices to retell history. And that is what Ondaatje has done here. He has spoken about history in the skin of a lion. Yes, retelling voices. We're done here. Did you like it? Smooth, yes? It had its ups and downs, but then, yeah, nice. I liked it. This is Hina from Team Vallath. Take very good care of yourself. Canadian literature is on. And if you're liking it, you have to comment below. Bye-bye.